history of ghosts, and some people have built entire careers on studying this long, strange, and complex field. References to shades and specters date all the way back to the beginnings of recorded history, ancient Mesopotamia, and likely even further, while the more modern idea of ghosts perhaps most emerged in the Victorian era. People have often both feared and welcomed the return of the dead, in one way or another. Naturally, though, opinion is divided, and when claims of a ghost sighting or supernatural encounter are made, there are a few things that might be going on. First, and perhaps most obviously, whoever's making the claim could be lying. Just as there's a rich history of ghosts in world folklore, there's also a rich history of people using belief in ghosts for their own ulterior motives. Certain psychics and spirit mediums have become infamous and widely regarded as scam artists, using a variety of techniques to get information about their customers before passing themselves off as the real deal. In fact, supernatural cons designed to part trusting members of the public with their money were and are so prevalent that many organizations have been set up over the years to investigate them. One of the most famous is the London-based Ghost Club, founded in 1862, which still exists today and counted Charles Dickens and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle among its members. Dickens, in particular, was a prolific debunker of hauntings, seances, and psychics. Then there was the famous case of spirit photographer William H. Mumler in the United States, who in 1869 was exposed in a very public trial for using camera trickery to convince people that he'd captured their deceased loved ones on film. But despite all that, it can't be that every single person who says they've seen a ghost is lying or trying to get rich quick. Many are absolutely and truthfully convinced that they have had an experience with a spirit, with no shady psychics to blame. But in these cases, there may yet be a scientific explanation. A 1998 paper published in the Journal of the Society of Psychical Research blamed a very ordinary but only recently discovered phenomenon for ghost sightings: infrasound. Written by information technology lecturer Vic Tandy and psychology professor Dr. Tony Lawrence, the paper was based on a spooky encounter that Tandy himself had experienced in a haunted lab in the UK. During the experience, Tandy had felt anxious. He'd noticed that his surroundings were appearing to vibrate, and he'd thought he saw a gray blob. But afterwards, he discovered that a nearby fan was emitting infrasound, and so blamed his experiences on this. Upon turning the fan off, the spooky happenings reportedly also stopped. So, what exactly is infrasound? Simply enough, it's just sound that is below the range of human hearing. Human hearing begins at 20 Hz and extends all the way up to 20,000 Hz on average. Hertz is a measurement of how many vibrations there are in a sound wave, in terms of cycles per second, aka frequency. So a sound at 20,000 Hz is 20,000 cycles of vibration in a second, which we perceive as high-pitched. Sounds exist above and below the range of human hearing, with perhaps the most famous example to show this being a dog whistle. Dog hearing has an upper limit of around 45,000 Hz, meaning they hear more than twice as well as a human does. Dogs can hear and respond to these whistles, while to humans, they're totally silent. But suffice to say, dog whistles are not also evidence of the paranormal, and ultimately, infrasound is the exact same. It's just at a very low instead of very high frequency. Bizarrely, the existence of sound waves between 0 and 20 Hz wasn't even discovered until the First World War, when technology was developed that used infrasound to find artillery. Infrasound didn't suddenly come into existence with the advent of modern technology, however. Importantly, for today's video, it's also produced naturally all over the world in all kinds of ways. It is generated by technology in some cases, by wind turbines for instance, but it's also made by whales communicating with each other, elephants communicating, severe weather events, strong atmospheric events, and natural disasters like earthquakes and avalanches. Essentially, infrasound is all around us. Until recently, we had no way to detect it. Its effects on the human body are still very real though, even if you can't hear infrasound in the usual way with your ears. Vic Tandy's research, for example, showed that feelings of unease, the vibration of objects, and even apparitions could be explained away by infrasound. He then believed that his visual hallucination, the vibrating surroundings, had been caused by infrasound resonating his eyeballs. Similar effects might be felt after exposure to ultrasound too, the sound above the range of human hearing, as all kinds of sound waves that we can't actually hear can still have an impact on us. Pervasive sound can lead to other things as well, like trouble sleeping. And then, in the context of ghost sightings, perhaps if you're sleep deprived, you may be more likely to see things that aren't really there. All thanks to those vibrations passing through your body even when your ears and brains can't detect them as sounds. Following his initial study, Tandy went on to visit many other notorious haunted places in the UK, equipped with technology to detect infrasonic sound waves, and he did find infrasound all over. It's not likely that every single ghost sighting ever can be explained away by this, but with clearly documented effects, there's a good chance that infrasound has something to do with many of them. There are still other scientific explanations for ghost sightings, like electromagnetic fields, which have also been found to make people feel uncomfortable. Some ghost hunters specifically use machines to take EMF readings, and there are claims that it's the ghosts themselves that are causing any EMF anomalies. But in a direct sense, it might be said that it's always the electromagnetism, ghosts or no ghosts, that can literally make your hair stand on end. There have been cases of alleged hauntings, perhaps being caused by the presence of carbon monoxide gas too, which can trigger symptoms such as nausea and hallucinations. Carbon monoxide is genuinely very dangerous though, so if you are having regular visitations from the deceased at your home, then you might want to get yourself a carbon monoxide detector, just in case. And finally, it's thought by some that ghost sightings might also be hallucinations brought on by sleep paralysis, in which you're awake, but your brain and body are confused and act as if you're still dreaming. This can cause sufferers to be terrified, frozen to the spot, and at the mercy of their own runaway imagination, which, remember, knows exactly what you're most scared of. Of course, ghost sightings could also be caused by something we still don't completely understand: our own brains and behaviors. Significant research has been done into Ouija boards since their popularization at the turn of the 20th century, with this in mind. And it turns out that the planchette, or glass moving around the table, isn't always because someone is consciously playing a trick. Participants also move them around subconsciously. Humans can do, see, and believe all sorts of things, simply because they expect to or want to. And if you're already trying to commune with the dead via a Ouija board, maybe you just want to believe in its legitimacy. While the idea is certainly still up for debate, there are arguments that it can be applied to ghosts in general. We perhaps want to believe that there are ghosts out there because it makes death a little less mysterious and can provide some comfort to the bereaved. Failing that, And if you've ever had a ghostly encounter or believe you're being haunted, then it may be worth investing in a simple infrasound detector to see if there really is a scientific